Chit Chat is sponsored by Fun Again Games, where everyone is welcome at our table, and your source for hard-to-find imports, liquidation games, new releases, and much more. Be sure to visit funagain.com to check it out. On episode 107 of Chit Chat, Jeremy's back from Essen, and he did more than just see some interesting Euros. He also took in a bit of the culture and caught up with some long-distance friends, only to get back and find his table still infested with dungeon crawlers. Welcome back to Chit Chat. It is episode 107. We're a few members down here. Well, actually, just one member down. We've got Emily. We've got myself. And returning from his trip to Germany, we've got Jeremy. Woo! Jeremy is back. Jeremy, welcome back,
Thank you.
By the way.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back stateside in my home, which is not an undisclosed location. I am at home. I am here, back in my place in the control room for Chit Chat.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Back in the control room. He was just telling us, too, that he's back from Essen, by the way, if you didn't know. He wasn't here the last couple episodes, or last episode anyway, because of Essen. And you just received one of the big boxes that you shipped back?
Yes, all 50 pounds-ish of games.
Oh
and
my
that
gosh.
is only one box.
Wow.
So yeah, there are a lot of boxes. I actually have a picture of something a friend took of my boxes. He said, "Are these all your boxes?" I said, yeah, "Unfortunately, yes." So
did that box hold together?
You know what? It looks good. I got my suitcases that I still haven't unpacked. I got 3 suitcases down here. It's a lot. There's stuff that arrived, games that are arriving. You guys are getting games in the mail. We are getting games in the mail. It's been a great time to be a gamer to close out this year. It's pretty insane.
It has been an amazing time to be a gamer. In fact, we're not going to talk about that this episode, but we are going to have another episode soon where we're just talking about the year of 2022 so far.
It's coming up.
I mean, it's coming towards the end, and we're going to have our top 10 list, but I'm telling you, this is one of the best years that we've had in gaming, in my opinion, in a long time. There's been some killer games this year.
There's been a lot of good games this year, for sure.
And a lot of them came back from Essen or were released at Essen. And Jeremy was even telling me off camera, there's some games he has that we can't say anything about. He's being really coy. I can't wait for him to come back down. Are you going to bring all 180 pounds of games with you the next time? I'm
going to do what I do at Gen Con and just come with a car full of games to where I have to catch them falling out of the door when I come down. So I'm going to do that. Except it's going to be Essen style, and half of them you're going to need to print an English rule book for.
Hey, I have no problem. I have no problem with that. So, speaking of Essen, we're going to spend this episode mostly getting the lowdown from Jeremy on his trip to Essen. We're going to talk about the games that were there, of course, but we've talked about those already a little bit. I want to know more about just
what it was like,
the overall experience.
Yeah.
Now, I've been to Germany before, but it's been a minute. And I want to know about Essen. Before we get to any of that, though, we do have
some winners
from the last episode. If you didn't catch the last episode, we gave away the Ticini sort of promo pack that he's running a crowdfunding for. And we've got 2 winners. So if your name is Wes Hedges or McKinley Heflin, you have won. Congratulations. Congrats. Just, we will email you because you've already emailed us.
Yes.
And we'll sort out all the details and try to get you on those lists so that when they fulfill, you can get those promos for all the T games and all the other games that he's a part of.
Nice. Exciting.
Tonight, for episode 107, we are going to be giving away an Essen release. I don't know how many copies they had there, but it's a small box game. It was from Capstone. And it's got 2 of my favorite things, not really, but beer
and bread.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, I picked up my copy at Essen. Yep.
Yeah, it's a fun. We've done a live stream of it. We've had a copy for a little bit, but it released at Essen. If you would like a copy of Beer and Bread, just email us at mvmcontest@gmail.com.
There you go.
With the code word
beer. It was between beer or bread.
I have to go with it. I put her on the spot, and she came up with beer, so it's beer.
Beer here.
The code word is beer. Put that in the headline, and you will be entered to win. So with that out of the way, now let's get to what we wanted to talk about, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the games we've been playing too. But Essen, Jeremy, walk us through it in medium detail.
Okay, so that'll give me about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Oh no! So no. So Essen, Germany. It's I fly from Milwaukee. It takes about 10 hours or so to get there. 10 hours or so. There's a lot of layovers in between your flights, but air time 10 hours. Got to Essen, and interestingly enough, you wouldn't believe it, German everywhere.
What?
So I got
In
to
Germany?
the hotel, and I just so happened to meet Sonova, if you know her from Board Game Ramblings, and Johannes was not there. He had to work. Well, when I got to my hotel, I saw her randomly, just saw her there, right? And I ended up going to dinner with her and the team from Aporta. So the people who do Aporta and Chili Fox, they made Revive, which is the hottest game at Essen. It was sold out at Essen. So it was very nice to actually, by complete circumstance, just random, that I ended up meeting them. So that was really, really cool. So kind of a cool way to kick it off. And one of the biggest surprises of that was they told me, hey, we just want to let you know, maybe you don't know this, but we have not their banner, but like their kind of like display that they have at their booth, and it's had my quote on it, which was really cool. I mean, I'm across the planet, and here I am seeing my quote on the wall.
Oh, that's so cool.
I mean, we do have quotes and stuff that show up, but I mean, this is big. It's 147,000 people, folks.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's different. That's a different vibe. It's something that's a different vibe. It felt good. But I mean, it was very busy. If you need a layout of how this is, it's sort of like 2.5-ish Gen Cons. In scope of people, but also in size, it's sort of like that size. Because you're going to have, I mean, if you add up all the side rooms at Gen Con, that's kind of what it would be.
Yeah.
But, picture 6 halls next to each other. And if you forgot where something is and you walk all the way on the wrong side, you got to walk all the way to the other side. So that part can be difficult as you get to like 5 and 6, 5, like 1 to 6 or 2 to 5. You're going to get your 10,000 steps, folks. Trust me, if you're there. But I didn't have much time to take things in because I was in on other business. It was crazy. But I did get to meet Vital Lacerda, my favorite designer.
Oh my gosh.
That was cool. Matthias Waggy, I believe his last name is Waggy. He stopped me, and I was like, well, "Who are you, sir?" And he's like, "I designed Arc Nova."
Oh.
He was like, "Man, thank you for all the positive things." It was really cool. I got to meet Luke Hector from Broken Meeple. I got to meet Mark Dainty, from Never Bored. I got to meet Paul Grogan for the first time. These are people I've been talking to for years.
You've never met Paul before?
What's that?
You've never met Paul before?
No, I haven't. And we've known each other for 5 years.
Wow.
We've never met each other. So I was going to meet him I think 3 or 4 years ago, and I think he was here, and I didn't know where the room was. So I didn't know where the room was. I was looking for it. I was like, all right, well, I got to go. So to meet all the people that you'd never get a chance to meet and know that they're just as accessible and just as kind as, the people here in the U.S., and to meet all the publishers that we've worked with before, and them seeing us and seeing me and tell everybody we appreciate the work they've done. And they wanted to see everybody from the team. So overall, it was a blur. And the big one is that I picked up too many games, and I spent probably just as much as I did buying games as I did to ship them back home. So
oh my gosh,
the pro tip for you is your first Essen, do not buy everything, because I did exactly what I did on my first Gen Con. I bought everything. So, just to be recognized halfway across the planet, it's like, wow, Like, that's cool. I'm sorry, that is cool. And it's not expected, it's just not expected. It's here I am flying, and then it's like people reminding me, hey, like, I appreciate your work. So thank you to all the people who did stop me in my tracks, because you probably made me breathe. And, thanks for all the love, I really do. I don't get tired of that, because it motivates me to keep doing this.
Yeah.
And it just motivates. It's worth the time and effort and the passion that we do put into this content when you have people do that. I mean, I had a person from Africa stop me in my tracks.
Nice.
That's super cool.
That was crazy. We talked about, gaming influence and spreading the word out, and just, man, it was crazy. We just had a really good connective conversation, and there were moments. It was a blur, but there were moments, and I got to see some very cool exclusive games that. Yeah, I mean, it really sucks when you see stuff and you can't talk about it yet, but
not yet.
It's so far out.
So
it's so far out.
Of the ones you can talk about, and the ones that you weren't really expecting, can you tell us if there's just one title that you thought was kind of like one of the big, awesome surprises for you that you can talk about?
Don't get us in trouble.
Well. Ooh, boy. Ooh, boy.
What a tease.
One game that I thought was interesting, and it kind of blew me away, was this game by Portal. It's coming up soon. It's called Thorgle. And Thorgle is based on this I think it's like Slavic graphic novels, and it's quite deep. It's got a lot of lore and stuff into it, but this one is more so. It's not like Robinson Crusoe, but it is very much scenario driven, just scenarios, not campaign driven. And you are doing so many different mechanics. And what I found interesting about it, that I kind of related to Robinson Crusoe in this sense, is that every episode is a different page, but it also, like, the maps are different. So, like, in one map, you'll be doing something completely different, and there will be a map representing of what that is, versus, like, using the same map in Robinson Crusoe and just kind of, like, using the different tiles or whatever. This one is, like, full-on, absolutely different scenario. We are cooperating differently. We're doing things. We may be running from people a whole episode. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. We may be, gathering resources in another one. We may be having conversations in another one. I thought that was really a very, very interesting concept that was going on. Hamlet was like one of the hottest games there. That was a very, very hot game because it was in low quality. There's just a couple things I really can't. Oh, Copan. This game that's coming soon. It's called Copan. It's by Holy Grail Games. Yeah. So that one by Holy Grail Games. That was very, very interesting. Like, definitely a different take. It's just got a lot of different. Yeah, it's got a lot of different elements in it that I thought were really interesting. So stay tuned for that one.
Yeah.
That was something I got a chance to play a little bit of. And there's a lot of these small titles. I mean, Monster Lands 2 was there. I didn't get a chance to see too much of that. Encyclopedia was there. I mean, like, there's some games. There was this game called Flower War. I mean, I can go on forever. There were so many games, and I tried to bring all of them home. And the thing is that we have had access to some of these Essen titles, so I understand that, like, hey, these aren't all new to us, but I mean, like, even seeing Deal with the Devil, the CGE titles, like in action, and Starship Captains in action, that was really cool. That's the thing. When you get to see the games that are going to be out in the U.S. maybe 4 months from now, middle of next year.
Yeah.
Tribes of the Wind, that was a very interesting card game. That was a hot one. It sold out as well. So there's just a whole host of titles. I tried to bring them all back. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, just yeah, it was an experience. It was a blur, but it was a great experience. Not knowing how to get on a train and almost got kicked off a train, that was an experience. So, yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know. He's like, you get off at the next stop. I'm like, if you kick me off the train, I don't even know where to go.
Lost in Germany.
I'm just going to get on the next train and hope to God I'm going the right way. Like, so, that was pretty interesting.
What was the best food? What was the best food you had?
You know what? We actually went to an authentic German restaurant the last night we were there. And a lot of people had the German, whatever. I just wanted a good old steak. And
Sure.
I believe in going to places and having their steak or their burger for the first time. So if you cook them well, then I'll come back. I'll try anything else you have. So I went and I had a steak, and I eat medium rare steaks. And it was like one of the best steaks I've ever had.
Nice.
Like it was absolutely beautiful. I'm not going to go into how much I love red meat and I shouldn't be eating it. But it was fantastic. I think I fell asleep on the ride home. It was so good. But yeah, I just had a great time. I had a great time.
Well,
oh my goodness, I had a great time.
Welcome back to the States.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that since you've been back, you just got back, last week, right?
Yeah.
And you've been playing some non-Essen stuff while waiting for your boxes. What have you been playing over the last couple days?
Okay, so let's just say the week before Essen and right after it, I have been delving deep into dungeons, okay? Delving deep into dungeons, going on adventures, okay? So before I left Essen, I've received Dark Souls, the new Dark Souls box from Steamforged Games. This is coming out soon. They're taking pre-orders for it right now. And I'll have some content, I think, closer to like November, early November. And that was a really interesting experience. They've kind of remixed some of the rules. They've made things more streamlined. They've kind of responded to some of the things that people were looking for as far as attacking and defense, how things are laid out, all that stuff. But they didn't talk about backwards compatibility too much yet. But other than that, I've been playing that, kind of getting my mindset ready for that Elden Ring situation. And then I played Massive Darkness 2. I broke that baby open. And man, what an awesome dice chucking, just a big beer and pretzels, dice chucking, level up, a little bit of Zombicide, a little bit of Cthulhu Death May Die, gigantic miniatures. Awesome. But my friend and I have started a campaign in Oathsworn. So this Sunday, we roughed our way through the first chapter, and we decided that we played half the rules wrong, so we're going to start over. So I have it set up on my table. I'm going to start a solo campaign, and then we're going to do our campaign. So I have, just enough to play, and then I'll have some content up before the end of the campaign. I just don't want to rush through it. I want to experience it. I'm all in. I want to feel it. I want to know just how great this game is. I want to feel it. If it's great, I want it to be great. I don't want to rush it. If it's garbage, I want it off my table. So I need to make sure that I take it all in, and before I make that final judgment, before I share my message. That's the key. So yeah, I'm having a good time. I can tell you the first scenario, when I'll tell you this. This is what I'll tell you about Oathsworn. It's one thing to see pictures of it and tell people, and people tell you what it looks like and how it feels, and you see the pictures online. And I have some pictures that I have online. But when you see like the rat and the pit, like in the trees and the stuff out there, it's a whole different ball game, man. I mean, like it's like setting a scene for a play.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's not just setting it out. Like even Kingdom Death Monster doesn't do that. You're in the blackness, you're in the darkness, and you have this big board. This is like, once you get the trees and the house out and all that stuff like that, you're like, I'm fighting this gigantic rat in the forest. Like you feel it. The tension, the rats there's rats everywhere. You're everywhere. And that right there, like that first thing, it has me hooked. So that's a good start. Yeah, like I've had a lot of epic moments this last couple weeks, so it's been pretty cool.
Emily and Ryan and I had some epic moments. We played, speaking of Death May Die, all those types of dungeon games, we did play the new Death May Die.
We did.
Fear of the Unknown. What was this, last weekend?
Yeah, it was just this last weekend.
This was last weekend. So it was after I had played with Travis Chance and we recorded a thing. Emily came over. She's never played.
Never played.
Ryan has played a few times. I've played a lot. So we took this on. And it was the three of us going through the scenario that we were given for the, I don't have the box up anymore, but for Fear of the Unknown. And in classic fashion, this thing came down to the very end. So second to last round, I went down. I was dead. The last round, so then when it went to Ryan, then it went to Emily. Emily died.
Yep.
I was already dead. Went back to Ryan, and at this point, the Elder One had been out on the board for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was like basically with Ryan the entire time. Ryan was like walking around and kind of complaining and wanting, babysitting is one way to put it. He was kind of whining about being left alone with it. But then after us dying, and Emily had an insane last turn. Was it your last turn where you did that, or second to last turn? One of her final turns, she was able to effectively do everything we needed to do
to set it up.
To set it up so that we could actually do damage to the Elder One, because the Elder One came out before we stopped the ritual.
Oh no!
It was not a good scene. And then Ryan, on his last turn, had, I think, 4 actions because he'd leveled up one of his things, so he got a free attack.
Yes, he had just leveled up something again, so he got another die to use, and he got a free other attack to use.
He had an insane amount of die. I mean, he was rolling all the die.
But also, he was at the very end of that madness track. Like, he had, like, 2 health left and was, like, 2 away from the end of his madness track. So it was, like, a very, very tense situation.
Yeah, it was quite literally, if he had not won on his turn, we would have lost
easily.
He would have gone because there was a lot of Elder One abilities at the end of his turn that was just going to kill him.
Coming out. Yeah. Then the reason I died too was because of that.
Yeah.
Because there was so much damage to soak up. I was like, well, I'm going to die pretty much anyway, so I may as well soak the damage. And then hopefully, Ryan, this is your one shot. You got to do it for us, or we die.
And it was kind of funny. Ryan was, I think the character was named Leon. Maybe he was the show off of the group. And he clearly did show off. The whole game, Ryan was leaning into his character because he was like, hey, you should finish your turn so you're right here. And I'm like, why should I? And it was all about setting Ryan up so that he could use his ability and show off in front of other people, because he had to be like within one space of other characters and he would get extra die.
Yes.
It did work out. He was the big damage dealer.
But I really thought it was my first experience with it, and I thought as soon as the Elder God was with Ryan, I was like, yep, we're done. That's it.
Yeah, so did I.
Death may die, and we will die. And this is it. This is it. Like, we're not, I was like, okay, well, this was a good first experience. So the fact that we won, I was like, what? I had counted us out for so long before that I was like, there's no way we're making this. We're just
that's
the
thing. It's you feel defeated and you die, right?
Yeah.
But you had a chance.
Yeah.
But then there's like that chance, that little chance.
Yeah.
And then you like get through and you're like, yes! Like, and it's like, and it's like, it always comes down to this insane amount of dice. Like, it's just like, here's 9 dice, chuck them all, you know?
Yep.
And here we go. Like, you know, I did the same thing in Massive Darkness, the same thing. It's just like, I'm fighting a boss. I'm literally chucking 11 dice, like, at once. Like, all these defensive rolls, all these other rolls, and it's like, all right, here we go, you know, live or die, here we go. So I love that game has that, it's just built into it, you know?
Yes.
And big moments, right? Big fails, big wins.
Yeah, the way that game progresses, because like you said, you end up with something like 11 dice or 9 dice, a lot. Everyone starts with 3 though. Because so at the beginning of the game, you're rolling 3 dice, so you're not really having those types of success. So that journey that it puts the player on of feeling like, oh my God, I've become like a god myself here, rolling these dice, just destroying things. It's very good, and it's just perfectly balanced such that by the time you're got all those dice, things are insane on the board. Because not only did we have that Elder One,
we had so many monsters.
There were so many monsters everywhere.
That you couldn't move anywhere. You were always carrying all these bad guys with you because they were following you everywhere. And then you're like, Yeah, if we want to be together so that Ryan could do his show-off ability, I also have to run through this like wall of minions to try to get to you. So yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I don't think we mentioned this on our video because we didn't have the information, but for those of you watching who don't know, their new campaign is launching on October 26th.
Okay.
Yep.
If you're going to ask in the comments below, are they going to make the old stuff available? I still don't know the answer to that question.
But you could ask.
That has been the number one question we've received. Yeah. It's probably going to be the number one question they get. I'm sure all will be revealed when their campaign launches, but that is one of the games we play.
Revealed.
Yep.
Emily brought over another game, though.
Yeah, we got to play Rise as well. So if you like tracks, on tracks, on tracks, on tracks, on tracks, this is the game for you, because there are literally 10 different tracks, and this game is basically, there's a little bit of like complexity with the action selection, there's a little bit of timing, but it's really just like move up a track, which moves you up another track, which might get you up another track, and you're just like trying to do the most combo-tastic thing way you can get up all these tracks to earn some points in the end to do some cool stuff.
Yeah, the tracks themselves, it feels very much when you're doing all of what she just said, much like a roll and write would, where you're comboing off onto other things where you're marking it off. But this is all boards that are on the table with cubes, and all the players have cubes on those tracks. And they're all kind of tied together thematically, and I use that term loosely. You know, your city planners or something like that, trying to make a city. So all of them, you know, there's a politics board, there's industry board, there's all these different boards that would relate to a city. But the action selection is actually, I thought, was pretty cool, because there's these, 8 cards that are out?
Yeah, so you have 4 different actions you can choose from, and then 3 events in between them. Yes, so depending on where you choose to take your action, if somebody's already gone there, you're going to give them a bonus by you going there. But also, the further along the actions you go, it costs more to go to those squares, but you'll get to do all the events that lead up to it.
Which are all usual. I mean, most of them are pretty good.
Some of them are not good.
Yeah.
But most of them are good, and some of them are really powerful. So some of them are like, even if you don't want the first one, you couldn't care less about the second one, the third event is really good. You're like, all right, I have to choose that last final 4th action, because like I want to be able to get that event to go off for me.
Yeah, it has some really interesting connections between what the boards do. You know, Ryan right away went up one board. I think, was it the industry board that lets you basically not have to pay for those cards? So those cards that she was talking about, you have to pay escalating money to get the ones later in the row. But there's another track in industry you can go up, or something like that, that allows you to effectively get those for without paying money.
From the bank,
but when you go up that track, it causes another track to go down.
Yeah, it gets
So you're going to
pollution
potentially get negative
dissatisfaction.
points. Yeah, dissatisfaction.
The people hate it when you tax them.
Exactly. That's exactly what was happening. It was an interesting game, but like we said, I think the best way to sum that up is it's called Tracks the Game. If you've ever played a game that you thought, oh, no, this is Tracks the Game, we've got it beat.
Literally Tracks
Rise
the Game.
is Tracks the Game for sure.
Yeah, I saw that at Essen, and I was like, oh, definitely that's Rise, because that's just tracks everywhere. I thought that was pretty interesting.
One of the things I like about it too is that it doesn't have a ton of other resources too, though. So you're not doing a ton of resource management, being like, I moved up here, give me 3 of this cube. I moved up there, give me 6 of this cube, and then like keep exchanging them. It's really just money, and then everything else is just moving around the track. So I think that simplifies it a little bit. It's not too much of like, I don't know, like pencil pushing between like this for that, for this, for that. And then I'm like, what did I even do this turn? It's very straightforward in that way, but still satisfying getting to see the progress you're making around the boards.
Yeah, stay tuned. We're going to have some sort of content. I don't know if we're going to live stream it or do a little bit of a play or do maybe an overview, but some of us here will do something on the channel for Rise sometime in the very near future. Jeremy, have you played anything else but the dungeons since you've been back?
Not really. I played this game. What is it? I played The Great Split.
Did you?
You didn't play that at Gen Con, did you?
Right.
So no, because you guys kept me out of the game.
Why did you bring that up?
Okay. We didn't want you to play it.
This is causing a rift in our friendship.
Seven opportunities for me to play. Didn't let me play.
It was Emily. Anyway. I said we should ask Jeremy, and Emily said, no. Do not ask Jeremy.
Nice way to pass it.
Did you like it, Jeremy? No. Did you like it?
Speaking of passing, right? So, Great Split, You know what's interesting is there's not enough I split you choose games.
Yeah.
There just doesn't seem to be a lot of them. So I think this having a twist on it was interesting. What I worry about with that game is that in consecutive plays, now I should say, let me just kind of give you a quick synopsis. This game, you're going to be trying to move up these different tracks. It's another tracks game.
Yeah.
And you're going to be trying to pull off combos to move up different tracks. But the kicker here is that you are going to take cards and they're going to build up as you go along. Your hand's going to build up as you go along, but you have a max where you can get. You're going to be taking cards and splitting them in your hand, and you'll have one card that's your own card. It's like a wild card. And you're going to split them. And you may have 3 cards on one side and 2 cards on the other side. You may have 1 card on one side and 5 cards on the other side. Whatever you want to do, you'll split them with your wild card and you'll put them in an envelope type thing and you'll pass it to the person to your left, I believe. And what happens is that person gets to choose which side they want, and then they give it back to you. And what you're doing is you're deciding which ones you want from the other person. It's got that part right there is a really good hook. Very good hook. And there's a little scoring change that happens every game, so it's not the exact same. But what you're doing as far as the tracks and things like that it feels like it'll get samey real fast. Like I don't feel like, ooh, next time I'm going to play this totally different with a new strategy and whatnot. It just feels like, okay, this game, I'm more likely to go up this track so I can win. It didn't feel like I'm going to be able to play this for a long time and get different experiences from it, except for the fact that the split you choose part, which is the game, is fun. It's really fun to give something to someone and be like, please don't take that. Please don't take that. I know that card's awesome, but you should take that instead. And like that kind of feeling, I feel that there's still a spot for that. Like that kind of fun, regardless, because it's not a long game. You can play with a lot of people.
Yeah.
But as far as like the longevity of the game, I'm not necessarily sure how long that will stick for me. But yeah, I think, especially if you're looking for a game with higher player counts, this is a great candidate for that. Like, and you can do this in under an hour if everybody's got the grasp of the rules.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, Jeremy, there's one thing that I know Emily and I have been consuming, that it's not a game that we've played, but it's something we want to tell you about since you told us about Essen. And I don't know if you've watched this, but I didn't know Emily was watching it. It's The Mole.
Oh, yes.
On Netflix. The Mole is an old sort of survival-esque sort of show from back in the 90s, or maybe early 2000s. And they brought it back on Netflix. And if you haven't watched The Mole, I would urge you, as a gamer, to check it out.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
This is a sort of like, not like Survivor, but it's that kind of game where there's a big group of people that are competing.
Yeah,
and each week someone gets not voted off. You're removed because you're not being observant. And it's effectively a bunch of...
Okay.
It's like escape rooms a lot of the time. They're put into situations where they're trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to do to get through this challenge? But the big rub...
I remember this.
The big rub of the entire show is...
There's a mole.
One person is a mole.
It's the mole.
So it's a giant social deduction game.
Yeah.
So they're all trying to achieve these things, but they're all suspecting, okay, who's sabotaging us? But then, what didn't happen in the old show, but is happening in this series for sure, the mind games at play where I may not be the mole, but I'm actually going to act like the mole sometimes.
Yeah.
So that Emily thinks I'm the mole, because at the end of each episode,
they
all take a quiz on who the mole is.
Oh, man.
And whoever does worst on the quiz, they're gone. So it's very unique in that I like it because it's not a voting, like, oh, we're voting someone off.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not good at the game, goodbye. And the quiz is interesting because it includes questions, like I think the last question on each quiz is, who is the mole?
Who do you actually think is the mole? Yeah.
But it also includes questions like, at breakfast on Tuesday morning, what color shoes were the mole wearing?
Right.
Or when we did this challenge, what team was the mole on?
Yeah.
So
is the mole married? And then you can think like most of the people in the group are married, so statistically it's better for me to say yes. but the person I think it is isn't married. So do I go with the person I think, or do I go the safe bet of statistics? And like, when does that kind of start changing in the game? Yeah, I agree. That I think if you're a board gamer, it's a game you might be drawn to, or a show you might be drawn to, because it has a lot of that like psychological gaming going on, and there are some like physical aspects to the game, but it really is more about like puzzly stuff, and like all of them have like a puzzly aspect of it.
If you enjoy participating in escape rooms or watching those types of challenges, a lot of them are like that. There is like, I don't want to ruin any of it, but you really should watch it, because in my opinion, this is the best show of that ilk in the world of Survivor and Big Brother and all the ones where horrible people are doing horrible things to each other. This one, it's a game and everyone's pretty smart and they're doing challenges where we really test their intelligence. And we're sitting there thinking, the whole time, Alicia's watching it with me too, and we're just like, okay, I think it's this person. She thinks that this other person. In the last episode we watched, no spoilers, those two people were the last people on the cliffhanger to determine which one of them was going to be do the worst on the quiz. So we know one of them's not the mole, but we don't know until this Friday. So it's been fantastic.
I will say, like, I'm usually very into these types of shows. I'm like, I like a lot of reality television, but especially game show types. And I don't think The Mole is my favorite.
No.
Like, I think Survivor's still definitely my favorite.
That's okay. You could be wrong.
But I do think that this is more like one that I would say, like, yeah, I think that most people in our hobby would probably generally enjoy watching the show, or at least aspects of it, right?
I'm not a fan of these types of shows at all. I just miss the real world where some people were like hit or miss on TV completely. Like, it's like, hey, here are these, 6 people who are not supposed to be together, but only like 2 of them are interesting. So, like I like that kind of TV. It's like, no, clearly this person just likes to sit and read, and they are forced to be in this room, and you can tell. Let's see how that plays out.
Yeah, dude, you got to do this after we're done recording. Check out the first episode of The Mole and tell me what you think about it. Actually, you'll probably have to watch the first 10 minutes of the second episode too.
They keep doing it on.
Because they kind of keep you consuming the show, because they straddle them.
This is on Netflix?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah, check it out. Anyway, that is all we have for you this week's episode 107 of Chit Chat. Jeremy, welcome home back from Essen. We played lots of games. None of us are the mole. I mean, Emily might be the mole.
It's probably Ryan. He didn't even
Ryan's
show up tonight.
Definitely the mole. If there's anyone who's the mole on our show, it's Ryan for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, make sure everyone has fun at the table until the next time we see you, and we will see you then.